Welcome back to another episode of Street Tales. Mo, it's been a while. Been a few weeks, family stuff.
Yeah, we
Both
took
of
a
us,
little
both of us.
time,
Yeah.
took care of our families. I like it. We had some big things going on. So I know you
Yes,
had
we did.
your little lady. I don't know if you were
Yes,
putting
I
it out
did.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Her graduating. Congratulations.
Mm.
Now we're off to making big girl decisions, going off to college and all the things. So that's awesome.
Doing real stuff. Yes,
I
adulting.
love it.
It sucks, by the way, and she's learning that. So, yes.
Yes, it
So,
does.
I was struggling. I didn't like the true crimes because it's not accurate. So we're going to label these going forward when we talk about these police reports behind the report.
I love that. I love
Behind
that
the report.
because I feel like that's what we're doing.
That is exactly what we're doing. So a little more accurate. This one is again about domestic violence, and to give a little, I'm going to kind of front load because some of the feedback is like you just kind of jump into stuff and we don't know what we're getting into. But it is a domestic violence report, and this is a typical with domestic violence. She didn't want to report it.
Yeah, that's normal.
Right. Even though there's injuries. So, the reality of domestic violence investigations, this does occur. And for those new listeners and those that maybe aren't that familiar with law enforcement, domestic violence investigations are some of the most dangerous, emotionally charged for sure. And they are vastly some misunderstood law enforcement calls. People don't understand the nature of domestic violence. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. The mindset to law enforcement officers when they respond. This report kind of highlights highlights very accurately some of the hesitation and reluctance that you face with victims, especially when they don't want to cooperate for prosecution.
Yeah. It's wild too, because people would think when the average person probably thinks when you're going to domestic violence call that these people want help and I just don't understand why law enforcement doesn't do this or doesn't do that. It is so incredibly different probably than you ever suspect. And even the ones that are violent, I would say. I went to one, I won't go into it, but where a lady, her boyfriend was stabbing her every time he thought she lied to him. So needless to say, by the time we get there, she'd been stabbed multiple times. And this was back in the day when I first became a law enforcement officer. We could get waivers of prosecution from victims, even of victims of domestic violence. She was on the gurney getting into the ambulance, signing a waiver of prosecution. She did not want him to get in trouble because, and there's a lot of psychology behind that. There's a ton of psychology behind why both males and females, and I think the psychology is different depending on whether the victim is male or female, why they don't want help or why they don't want involving law enforcement or why they don't want to prosecute, and it is wildly different than I think the average person who has not done this job would think when it comes to giving these people help or making an arrest or whatever it is that we're doing at the time.
Yes. And to that point, when you're dealing with domestic violence, it involves a lot of fear, both sides, victim and perpetrator, trauma, because this is not like this is the first time this has ever occurred. It's built up. A lot of times it's not even the victim that actually calls. It's a neighbor, it's a loved one. Unfortunately, sometimes kids. The other thing is this: people don't understand, but the victim is they still love the person that's inflicting this damage upon them.
100%.
Manipulation. There's a lot of that. I don't know that we've ever gone into that, like the financial manipulation. If there's children involved, people, abusers will isolate them. So it's like, okay, if I'm not with him, then I have nobody. There's nobody else in my life.
Yeah.
That kind of ties into the complicated family dynamics. They're the breadwinner. Like imagine like you get hit, punched, whatever. You don't deserve that by any stretch of the imagination. But it's like, okay, what do? I can't go anywhere. Everything is joint, like just the overwhelming thought of having to start all over again, and also,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
sometimes it's not
yeah,
joint. Sometimes the perpetrator will
so
make
yeah,
sure that everything is only in
yeah,
their name. So when you walk
yeah,
away, you have no credit, you have no ability to get your own credit cards, you have no access to funds. They will shut them out of bank accounts, all these different things, as well as isolating them from their family, through either telling them your family hates me or your family doesn't, they
uh-huh,
don't care about you, or whatever manipulative commentary they can use in order to really, break them down mentally, is what it all boils down to, is that mental breakdown so that they
yeah,
feel like they're stuck. And it is so hard to change that mentality for that person who happens to be involved in that, to say, no, 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 you're not stuck. There's all these things that are available and this and that. And and I will tell you, part of the reason why it's hard to convince them of otherwise is because when you talk about programs, there's such a limited amount of them in truth. And as a
mhm,
result, there's limited funding, so they can only help so many people. And when you encourage a person to call and then they finally do get the courage up to call and then they're told, well, we don't have funding right now. Call us back in 2 weeks. They're not. They're not going to
mm-mm,
call back in 2 weeks because again, they feel stuck.
yeah. And it's not black and white. I mean, there's not like, oh, this is what's happening, so this is obviously the right it's very complicated, it's complex. There's also laws around it, I know, well, I don't know if it's laws or policy, but I know for us, basically, if there was injuries, you are hard pressed not to make an arrest. Somebody had to go to jail. Period. The
Right.
end, for liability reasons, whatever the reasons might be. And you're fighting an uphill battle sometimes. It's very
Yeah.
rarely just a clear, this is what happened. I'm done. Get him out of here, or her. Does work both ways, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Um, it, males it's wildly underreported.
Yes.
Males involved that are the victims of domestic violence or abuse. So think of that when we're trying to front load. We'll kind of touch back and forth on it, but think about that when we get into the story and like the mindset. And just to reiterate, all of these reports are reports that either we actually responded to. So it's not like this is something I'm just reading it. Like in this one, I was actually there, and
Mhm.
our favorite corporal was part of that. Uh, BT. Hmm.
Got it.
Yes. So a lot going on.
I will say
Ready?
too, one other
Oh, go
thing
ahead.
I wanna reiterate too, that like when you said, you touched on it about these people love that person. And they
Hmm.
go, "Well, how can you love somebody who hits you?" Sometimes these people who, male or female, that hit, that abuse, when they
Yeah.
are not abusing, they are the most lovely people ever.
Yeah.
They treat this individual like a king or a queen. They romance them, they buy them flowers. There is literally a cycle of abuse where they will go through this honeymooning phase. And at some point, the honeymoon phase ends and the hitting happens. It gets so much of a cycle a lot of times. They will push the confrontation just to get through to the honeymoon cycle, because
Hmm.
these people are just like I said, it's insane to say, but they are lovely people when they are not hitting them. So
Yeah.
it makes it very hard for them to hate that person, because that other part of them they absolutely do love, because the person treats them so well when they're not hitting them.
And there's layers and levels to the violence, and I tried doing some research on it, but it's kind of everywhere, standardized, I guess, in general, because it doesn't every. That's the other thing. You can't really generalize domestic violence. It's a very intimate, personal
Mhm.
thing. It comes in all shapes, sizes, and flavors, but there's kind of a methodology. It'll start with verbal, mental, things like that. Then the violence, it doesn't typically go 0 to stabbing every time she lies to me. It's
No.
like smacking, pushing, squeezing, shoving. That might be the norm for several years.
Mhm.
Never really goes beyond that. Again, totally against all of this and any of this, but
Right.
it's a build up phase to where it goes explosive. Very rarely, and I don't know that I've ever worked one where it went. Never has this ever, like, typically when you go to one that's exploding where there's extreme violence, what I would call extreme violence, there's history of this going on in this couple, this relationship, this address, this whatever, right? It's very rarely the first time it's ever happened, boom, stabbings are happening. That's very
Right.
rare.
Usually, though, the victim will say something to the effect of, I mean, this person has pushed me or, you know, slammed me against the wall or slapped me, but never done this. They have
Yes.
now been desensitized to the fact of pushing,
Yeah.
slamming against the wall is the same.
Wild. Yes. And this is not one of those cases, but we have talked about them where there's mutual combat.
There is.
They'll go blow for blow, man. So
It's wild.
also, this is what a young deputy, young officer was walking into trying to make a
Right.
determination. And this is where a lot of things can go wrong if you make the wrong decision
Correct.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this one was in 2012. So I was still a
Okay.
baby deputy.
Ooh, you were.
Oh yeah. This was at 4 a.m.
Oof, that's a lot.
Yes. Oh, and I was dispatched to a delayed domestic battery at the Florida hospital
Oh.
for an 18-year-old female who was punched in the face with a closed fist by her boyfriend.
Mhm.
Upon
Yeah.
arrival, I met with and interviewed the victim, and stated that her boyfriend, I'm sorry, who was 35, for the last, so she's 18, he's 35.
Wow.
For the
How
last
long they been
9
dating?
months, 9 months. Well, they've been
Mm,
living together for 9 months. So I don't know how about before that. It's not in my report.
got it.
Um, so the victim was, I'm trying to read so I don't read the names. This one wasn't as blacked out as the other ones.
Oh,
The victim was physically and emotionally shaken from the battery, had a large contusion over her left eye, minor scrapes and bruises all over her face and arms. So when you say large contusion, that means that thing is like lumped up. I mean,
yeah.
it's like hanging out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. Boop.
Too late.
It's too late. Not a sponsor. She was able to show me where her hair had been pulled out of her head. I will say they don't give us the photos from the stuff, but like
Yeah.
bald spots from just ripping her hair out of her head.
Jeez.
I'm trying to outline the damage because keep in mind she didn't want to report this. She stated that she did not have injuries anywhere else, and the medical staff confirmed there's no life-threatening injuries. She stated
So
that her
let me
boyfriend
pause you
was
there.
go
You
ahead.
said she didn't want to report this. So I'm assuming the call came in because she was at the
Medical.
hospital.
Yes.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. That's how, yeah. Her boyfriend was mad at her for going out. He came to pick her up from her friend's house, and as soon as she got into the car, he began to pull her hair out and punch her in the face with a closed fist. That's
Hmm.
police writing. He was punching her in the face.
Right.
She attempted to jump out of the moving vehicle multiple times, but he would pull her back in by her hair.
Wow.
Yes. So
Imagine the gravity of
yeah,
violence that makes you want to resort to jumping out of a moving car. Just think about
yes.
that for a minute. Let that sink in.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where I'm going to kind of go back. So I'm responding to the hospital. So this is a little different because it's a secure environment. So a lot of the officer safety consideration, all that kind of stuff. Not
Right.
that you ever let that go, but it's not as high. But you're
Right. A little
basically
different.
you're gathering as much information as you can, right? You then have to keep in mind while I'm talking about this. I don't think I've done a good job of explaining this as we read through the reports. It's not like I'm sitting down there with a laptop and I'm typing up. You either have like a little notepad or you're just trying to remember because there's a lot going on. You're observing the injuries, the emotional state of the victim, and then you have to, in your own head, establish the immediate investigative priorities.
Right.
This is all happening at the same time. Now, again, this was a little different because it's at a hospital. Sometimes you're doing this walking into the house, right? Where
Right.
chaos
Right.
is just ensued or
Yeah.
still ensuing.
Or is still going on.
Then, when you're investigating witnesses, victims, and even the suspect, which we'll get to here in a minute, you have to immediately build trust with victims. We have talked about this where here I
Oh,
am, a male coming to a victim who's just been brutalized by her boyfriend. She's physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted, battered, beaten. And here I am trying to establish trust that I'm here to help. And I'm also asking hard questions sometimes, right?
Domestic violence is, in my opinion,
Yeah.
having been a negotiator, and that was our ultimate job, was building rapport with people. Domestic
Mm-hmm.
violence is the hardest to build rapport with your victims because they still usually house some want in them to want to protect that individual.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they know deep down what's going on or what we're seeing is wrong and is
Mm-hmm.
probably going to get that person arrested. It
Yes.
is very difficult to build that rapport with them and convince them that we're there to help them, they're worth it, and that this is what's the best thing to do because, again, they know the fallout that's going to happen afterwards and they
Yes.
understand that. So it's not even that they don't want to build a rapport with us. It's not that they don't want to, they don't think that we're great people or that officer is a good investigator or they're doing all those steps that we should be
Mm-hmm.
doing. It's the fact that um, they're in this really perplexing situation where they still wanna protect that individual and keep them safe and out of harm's way, and when we talk about domestic violence, now obviously we've been talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, but domestic violence can be kids, it can be kids' parents, it can be, brother, sister, any of those dynamics, you have that familial, love that is really, really hard to overcome when you're building that rapport.
Yes, and also for people listening, think about any traumatic events or fights or anything like that, and imagine right after that,
Mhm.
maybe still in the middle of that, cops come and they're separating everyone, and now they're asking you questions. A stranger, you know, victims like you talk minimize. They try to minimize the abuse. Um, they allude to, but sometimes don't fully understand, concepts like the cycle of domestic violence or trauma informed interviewing, things like that. And keep in mind, I'm 1 year on as a deputy, right? The
Yeah.
other thing, you can train all day, but until you do it for real, you don't understand what the hell people are talking about.
Nope.
I can sit in a million trainings and go, oh yeah, trauma. Oh, sure. But until you do it, um, and then we've already touched on it, but the fear, financial dependence, emotional attachment, the manipulation and control is massive. I mean,
Huge.
it's not funny, but to me, it's like I can almost see it now. Like when you hear it,
Mhm.
like I can just hear conversations happening. I'm like, that ain't good because you can.
Nope.
It's almost like a textbook. They just like
Right.
when you see somebody
Yeah.
who's just constantly cutting the other person down or talking like what you and I would be like, that's wild. They should
That's
not be saying that.
wild.
That's crazy. And they're just like
Yeah.
normal. I was like, that's going to get bad at some point.
Yeah.
So okay. Sorry. So we're gonna bounce back. So I learned from her friend who was also there that her boyfriend was staying at a motel. I'll just do that. I think I prefer it that way still.
35
Um,
years old in a motel. Okay.
yes. So
Alright.
now here we go back to the victim. I was trying to get information. I was like, hey, what's his phone number? Let me call him, whatever. Refused to provide phone number.
Mhm.
Did not provide a written statement. Did not sign an oath form. Did not
Okay.
want photos taken.
Right. So completely
See what I'm saying?
uncooperative because not because they're being difficult. That's the other thing I would say. I know a lot of cops that would get frustrated. "What I
Oh
don't
yeah.
get this." Super frustrated, and I'd have like, as a trainer, because I was a field training officer for a while, I would have recruits that would get super frustrated. "What?
Mhm.
I don't understand this. We're trying to help her, or we're trying to help him, either one." And it's like, I'd have to remind them, "This is not personal for you. It is for them." So
Mhm.
we can't get upset with these individuals when they're trying to cling to whatever shred of life that they know of. Because at 18, if she's with a 35-year-old, I guarantee you I could almost guarantee financially dependent on him. Almost
Haven't
guarantee
got
it.
haven't gotten there yet.
Go ahead.
Uh she did advise she advised she did not want to prosecute, but she
Right?
did want a restraining order. also replied, her boyfriend has not had a job in 9 months since they moved in together.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Yep. I don't know how, and this is where my report writing, I was able to obtain one photograph of the contusion, but no additional photographs.
Okay.
I'm sure, to your point, I was frustrated. I was like, look, you called us out here. I got to take at least one photo of the most significant injury. I'm not sure what I said. It's not in here, and I don't remember that part, but I was able to
Right.
obtain one. Gave her a business card. As I was walking out, one of her friends who was there flagged me down and said, hey, she provided information on the boyfriend and said, hey, he drives a gold Acura. This is the motel he's staying at. This is the room number he's staying at. He called me. I don't know how all that, again, this is a report I wrote. I don't know why he called. I don't know the nature of that whole thing.
Right.
And he said, I just fucked that bitch up. You need to go find her.
Okay.
That's what we got. So now this is the initial portion of the report. So I was able to, I went to the motel. I found the gold Acura. I found the room, knocked several times. It says here that I could tell there was movement in the room, but nobody responded. And I clearly didn't have permission to force entry. So I did a probable cause pickup and left.
Makes sense.
Also, I can tell you at 4:00 in the morning, I was probably getting off shift. She didn't want to prosecute anyway. She was very uncooperative. Hey, this is where he's at. Hey, Sarge, this is what I got. He goes, do a probable cause, leave it at the district. Somebody will go pick him up later.
Right.
That's probably what happened. That's just real talk.
Sure.
I'm sure people listen like, oh my God, how could you? That's what it is.
Well, understand too, on something like that, we don't resort to kicking doors in
Not
unless it's
always.
actively going on.
Yeah.
That is essentially now just the same as an arrest warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of restriction, especially when you're talking about at a motel. This isn't his home. This is a motel,
Mm-hmm.
which is a business, causing destruction of their property, trying to kick doors in and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds awful to say, but I've
Yep.
said this in the past on some of our recordings. Law enforcement is a business. And so many times we are weighing what's right, what's wrong, what's against the law, what's not against the law, but we are also sometimes weighing liability, civil lawsuits, destruction of someone's property that we're going to have to pay for, all those
Mm-hmm.
things. As a supervisor, they're rolling those things around in your head. So they might have definitely said, do a probable cause pickup versus kicking in the door of a motel that's not his.
Fantastic. I'm going to skip to this next part because he was arrested 5 hours later.
Awesome. Somebody did find him.
Well, I don't want to, well, appears the deputy's still working there because it doesn't have like a little label next to it saying no longer there. So at 9 a.m., responded to where I said, it was a K9 deputy, knocked on the door and said, I'm going to read it, but he basically, the window was open. He goes, if you don't open this door, I'm throwing my K9 in there. And he immediately said, okay, I'm coming out. No resistance.
Coming out.
Took him into custody and transported him. Boom. That's it.
Beautiful.
That's why those warrant teams, bro. I'm like, you motherfuckers, bro. His report was 4 sentences long.
Yeah.
I rolled in with a K9 and he's like, yo, I'm good. I'm coming.
Easy work, bro. I always wanted to go to warrants.
Oh, so good.
That was my dream job.
I'm going to read her actual interview as I have it written down, and then we'll go back to the other stuff. All right.
Okay.
All right. So the victim stated that she wanted to go out with her friends last night and her boyfriend didn't want her to go. She decided that she was going to go anyway, and they began to argue over the phone. She decided to let her boyfriend pick her up so they would quit fighting. Manipulation part, right? He's controlling, doesn't want her going out, so he's just going to harass the shit out of her, make her feel bad while she's out with her friends.
Right.
As soon as she got into the car, he began to pull her hair out and punch her in the face. She was holding the car door open with her foot and screaming for help. She tried multiple times to exit the vehicle, but he would not let her out. She was finally able to escape out of the vehicle when he stopped at a red light.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yes. She ran to her friend's house. So I'm saying again, my report writing is not great because I'm like, where is this happening? I now, years later, have questions, but whatever. But she was able to make it to her friend's house, who called her mother, who took her to the hospital. Um, she went to Florida hospital to have her injuries treated. She said that her head was hurting and her eye was excruciatingly painful. I was like, yeah, I could,
I can see it.
yeah, lumped up. Uh, she started crying. Now, this is where we're going to get back. So, listen to what I just described. Didn't want to go out, harassing her, making her feel bad. So she's like, come pick me up. Immediately starts ripping her hair out, punching her in the face repeatedly. Wouldn't let her out of the car. Trying to get out of a moving car. He stops at a red light. She's able to finally, whatever, break free, get out. I'm sure, all of that.
Wild.
She begins to cry and states she didn't want him to go to jail because he has kids and their mother is already in prison. So boyfriend's baby mama is already in jail.
I am 100% sure
Mm-hmm.
that seed was planted in her head to worry about his
Mm-hmm.
children by him. You do this to me, now my
Yes.
kids are going to be left here with nobody. That's a seed that was planted well before this incident, too, because it's
But
probably not the first time that this happened.
no, she knows that her boyfriend, what he did was wrong, but doesn't want to see him anymore, but doesn't want him to go to jail. So I said, all right, well, where are the kids at? Well, his kids live with his mother, so their grandmother, but she does see him as often as he can.
Mm, right.
So
So
it's
him
like,
being
it's
in
just
jail could not have affected his children at all.
not even a little bit.
But he planted that
Yep.
seed that she's an awful person if you take
If
me away
she,
from my children.
for my kids, even though he doesn't work, he doesn't care for. See what
Provide.
I'm saying? This is why I was like, this is a perfect one. Mess the frustration
Right.
that I'm having. Not that this is about me. She stated she was going to the courthouse on Monday to file for a restraining order. She didn't want to give a written statement regarding the battery and stated she would not prosecute. She said that her boyfriend was very controlling and they were working on their relationship. Her mother had kicked. This is where they were living together at her mother's house, but her mother had kicked them out 2 weeks ago due to an argument between her and her boyfriend's mother.
Oh.
So,
And she left with boyfriend.
Yep.
Mhm.
So then this is where she ends it with, he's not had a job or a place to live for 9 months. She said that her boyfriend was kind of weird. Like he would take his jeans off and sleep with them underneath his pillow. And she didn't want to say how he made money or what he did during the day.
Okay.
Mm.
Sounds legal.
I love that I added that part in there. It makes me happy.
I do love that you
He
added
sleeps
that.
with his jeans under his pillow. I was like,
That is strange.
that's weird. You're right. That is weird, man.
That is
And I
weird.
love that. I don't want to tell you how we make money. Okay. We already
That's
know what that
fair.
means. Yeah, yeah.
We know what that means.
I'm sure it's a 9 to 5. All right. So, talking
Absolutely.
point. The victim described wanting the abuse to stop while simultaneously not wanting the suspect arrested. As we talked, this is extremely common and why officers must separate emotions from probable cause. Right?
Yeah. Because you can, and here's the thing too, with an uncooperative victim, I have numerous times, and I know you have you still write the report, and you want to make sure that you don't allow your emotion to cloud the level of or the professionalism of the report that you write.
Yes.
Because whether or not that victim pursues those charges or not, in the state of Florida, they can pick the charges up. The state can pick them up at times.
Mhm.
Do they do it often?
No.
No, because they're inundated. But there are times that they do. And on those rare occasions when they do, you want to make sure that your report is ready for that to occur. Because
Uh-huh.
if you do truly have an uncooperative victim, the entire case is going to probably crux on your report. So it's even more important that
Yes.
it's properly documented, that you are putting in the right details. I always say, because some people write detailed reports, but it's all the wrong stuff. That you're putting in the right details for that report to be able to carry that case through the court system.
And Mo, this is a question I think you would answer best. Why do officers and deputies make arrests even with a victim objections?
The idea is if we don't make an arrest and we leave there and something happens and the violence escalates, someone gets more injured or someone dies, Now it becomes an issue of why didn't we do it when we had an opportunity to intervene? And in many cases, victims will say, I don't want to do anything out of fear, out of um, i- there are some perpetrators that can literally look at their victim and in a look, they know if I pursue this, I'm going to die or I'm going to beat again, or this is what's going to happen. So the idea is we are taking over to kind of alleviate. And I know when I made arrest, I would always make sure that the suspect knew the individual did not want to, the victim didn't want to press charges. I am pressing charges to let them know that if there is a consequence, there's no consequence that should come to them because they didn't want to have it happen. Um, important that we still do that to prevent any future violence is the idea. And when the person goes to jail, they don't get bonded out, they can't get ROR'd. It's the idea that if the victim is ready to leave, it gives them that time to make that decision. They have a couple of days usually before they're gonna have them back out and be confronted by this individual to move, to get help from their family, to reach out and reconnect with whoever they have isolated them from, to go to some of these, area programs that are available for domestic violence victims and to be able
Mhm.
to get out before they can get back out of jail, essentially.
Also, I want to talk about protective orders because I think we've mentioned this a few times before, but this one also has that. And I just want to say this: protective orders are a piece of paper. They don't.
Yes.
They are not going to stop anything. If that person tries, they're just not. It really just what I think it really does is it makes it the decision very quick and easy for an officer when something arises. Oh, there's
Correct.
a protection order. Dude's here. Violation. Boom.
Boom.
Done.
Done.
That's really what it's done. But it doesn't mean that it.
100%.
Oh, I have a protection order. They can't be around me. That doesn't mean that if they really want to, they still will.
Yeah. It
People don't
doesn't keep them
understand
from doing
sometimes.
anything.
No. Mm-mm. I will also say, I realized I charged this dude with false imprisonment, and I love it because he wouldn't let her leave the car.
That's false imprisonment all
I
day.
like I
Wouldn't
like
let
it.
her leave a certain area. That's what it is. I will
Mhm.
say too, like when we were saying about the protection orders, injunctions, protection orders, they only work against people who are going to comply.
Yeah,
If that individual is not gonna comply, if they're gonna still be violent, if they're gonna still contact you, it just means that we can violate them, you know?
yeah.
That's what they're for.
I I recapped a few things, and this is where I'm saying I'm trying to, add a little instead of just breezing right into it. We touched on abuse often escalates. Victims rarely fit public stereotypes.
Yeah.
Love and fear can coexist, two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
Officers often become the first step towards safety. That is very true.
Mhm.
And I also want to say, I sometimes I feel like I get a little jaded when I talk about these things, but I've had numerous examples where I was able, I was personally there when arrest was made. Yeah, uh, domestic violence shelter, but whatever, they were able to get out.
Right.
So I've been there when when that occurs. Um, Also, documentation truly does matter. To your point,
Yes,
you
it
brought that
does.
up. Witnesses can save lives. A lot of these times, it's not any of the parties involved. It's a neighbor or a friend or shit.
More often than not.
I've even had bystanders that are
Yes.
just I don't know what's going on. Shit is
Yeah.
wild.
It's wild. You need to come up here and do something. And
Yes,
that's more often than not.
and I thought domestic violence impacts the entire family, which is also very
Yes.
true. It is not just the two parties involved, especially if there's kids involved, but the
Mhm.
parents, the brothers. I mean, this is where shit can get really pop off. And I
Yeah.
know we've talked about some of them where it's like, mama, daddy, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, brother, whatever. They all roll in deep into, street
Yeah.
justice, so to speak.
And you're trying to save the suspect at that point. So I was gonna one other thing I wanna touch on is when you're saying about the report writing part of it, besides the fact that it's super important for that reason, I will tell you, and you always say it when we're reading these, "Oh my gosh, my report writing needed to evolve." I think all law enforcement officers go
Yeah.
through a report writing evolution and
Hmm.
a investigative evolution, I will say as well,
Yeah.
because when I first started, my report writing wasn't the same. My way of investigating, by the time I got to the end of my career, I learned how to better assist victims, is what I will say, because when I first started doing this job, when I would go to domestic violence calls, it was like, okay, I get there, just separate everybody, do interviews, do this. And immediately, once I've determined I'm going to make that arrest, as my career progressed, I learned that if I am coming into a situation that's not volatile and I have control of the situation, where the way I would handle is I would give written statements to both of them. Everybody wrote something. I'd listen to everybody's story and be like, "Oh, okay." I didn't really understand what was going on. I'd take pictures of everybody. I would do things so that it did not appear that I knew who my suspect was, so
Mhm.
that at the very end, once I had gathered all of that investigate those investigative steps, and truthfully, it doesn't hurt. It didn't hurt to take pictures of the suspect, get written statements from the suspects, get it. None of those steps hurt, but it also put the victim at ease to where they were a little more open because they thought you were just going through the motions with everybody. And
Mhm.
at the very end, I would even go so far as to, because we all know Miranda is not like it is on television. Once I did know that person in my head was a suspect, if I was gonna interview them, I'd Mirandize everybody. So it looked as if, oh, she's just giving Miranda to everyone, and that's the way it just kind of is so that we can get the story. Because 'cause I'm trying, and I would say, trying to figure things out, so I wanna read you Miranda rights and just completely downplay it. That would allow me to be able to get all of the photographs, the written statements, all the things that I needed to get, and then I'd make my arrest, and now all I had to do with the victim was give them their domestic violence pamphlet, give them
Mhm.
my card, and I had everything from them that I truly needed. So, the report writing, the investigative steps, all those things I think evolve as you learn more in this career and learn better ways to truthfully help these people.
Yes. I love the way you wrap things up, Mo. So I like this, and well, I'll figure this out. But this, when we're talking about these aren't just police reports; these are people's lives. And in
Mhm.
this one, it demonstrates a woman in her own statements at a crossroads where she didn't want to be abused anymore, but she didn't want to have him go to jail, but she wanted a restraining
Right,
order. Kind of, you know, and her family was trying to help her, her mom, right, her friend.
right.
Um, and then you had deputies trying to help her, protect her. I think that's another hard road for me, especially is that you can't be the protector for everybody,
Nope,
especially if
you
they don't
can't.
want protection.
Right.
Woo!
It's very hard. I think that's where the frustration comes with a lot of law enforcement officers because this is my
Yeah.
job, this is what I do, and it almost becomes like they're being challenged by the victim, and they don't know how to channel that frustration.
Yes. I can tell you right now, that was one of the hard things for me.
Mhm.
It's like, why won't you let me just do my job? But I like the idea, and I'm trying to do a better job, and hopefully we are. But these aren't just case numbers; these aren't just police reports. These are people's lives. These are their fucking stories.
Yeah.
And again, typically, it's one of the worst days of their life
Yeah.
that's happening. Ah, rough. What do you think, Mo? You got time for one more?
Let's go.
All right. This one is along the same lines. Again, most of these are all domestic violence, but um, this one involves a mental health crisis. Domestic violence
Oh,
with a mental health crisis angle, which
interesting.
you'll find this is why I picked these out. Um, this one was, I labeled this one when nobody wants your help. uh, so what do you do when the victim hates the police, the suspect runs from the scene, and everyone involved has been drinking?
Oh, this sounds like
Yes.
a nightmare.
Ooh,
This sounds
this
like
one
it's
I
gonna
did.
take a long time too.
Yes. So this was just a few months after the one we just read. So we're still in 2012.
Mhm.
Um, this one was actually right at midnight. Boom. So I responded to a domestic violence that just occurred. Security officer was with the victim who was bleeding from her mouth.
Oh,
Yes. Upon arrival, I met with and interviewed the security officer. I learned that he was approached by the suspect and advised him that his mother had just died and he was going to kill himself. So the suspect's mother just died and he was threatening to commit suicide.
okay.
Then he ran. I'm going to kill myself. Boom, gone. Got it? There we are.
So you have an endangered suspect, basically.
So then I respond and observed someone standing in the parking lot in front of the victim's residence bleeding from their head and mouth. I know this will make more sense with the interviews, but yeah.
Got it.
Everyone refused to sign any forms, provide any verbal or written statement. Nobody wanted to talk to me, and nobody would
Right.
allow me to take any photos. Right?
Right.
Did not want to be medically treated. Nobody wanted anything, and wanted to remain inside the residence for. Nobody wanted to do anything. So now I have a female who was beaten up.
Right.
I have a suspect who threatened suicide, still a suspect, and has fled on foot. So I had to call K9.
Yeah.
They arrived, attempted to do a search, negative response. And so the ending of that portion of my case was probable cause pickup.
Okay.
Not a lot to go off of.
No.
Yes.
I'm
So,
honestly shocked that with the threat of harm,
yeah.
that it wasn't dug into a little bit more to locate him.
Mm-mm.
Very interesting.
I can tell you, not that it matters. Not that it matters. Individual has a quite extensive criminal history.
Right.
I'm not saying that should play a role or did. I'm just
Right.
saying I'm reading the report as it's written.
Yeah.
So this is a different one. Domestic violence was in progress. That's how the call came in. Security personnel are already on scene. Have an injured victim, female. Suspect is fled on foot after threatening suicide. This is how
Mm.
responding to the scene. um,
Sidebar, this is why I love our job, because when that computer went off, you never knew what it was
nope,
gonna say.
no,
So interesting.
it it's so wild. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Sorry, I'm gonna leave it at that. So my question to you, Mo, is how do you investigate a crime when the victim doesn't want to talk?
It's tough. I mean, in that instance, you're gonna start, like you said, start with security guards, start with any other witnesses that'll talk to you. I know you said in the beginning that all the other witnesses were intoxicated. I would note that, but I'm still gonna conduct interviews,
Okay.
because a lot of times when people are drinking, they're way more honest than they would be if they were sober. So I'm
That's also
interviewing everybody and I'm documenting everything that they said. I am to make sure that
mhm,
I am doing proper documentation, noting that they are intoxicated, but I'm still going to note what they said, because the reason why some people will be like, why would you note that? Because you know it's something that can come up in court later. Because I know it's something that can come up in court later, and I would rather it come from me versus them to say that I did it. Yeah, I noted that, but
yeah.
I would also note what that intoxication looked like, because intoxication is a very broad
Mhm,
term. That's the guy who's falling down, passing out drunk, to the person who has just a little bit of slurred speech. They're all
mhm.
intoxicated. So I'm going to note what intoxication looks like in that individual so that they can't embellish it later on. But I'm definitely going to note it. And then with the victim, if I can't get her to talk to me, in this case, it was a female, I'm going to document everything I see, heard, and any other
Mhm,
observations that I'm able to make, any injuries on her, what if I'm able to see what the house looks like, if I'm able to see a fingernail ripped off of one of her, nail sets, what I'm documenting
mhm.
everything that I have the ability to see, and I'm documenting any spontaneous statement she makes to me or anybody else around. That's the only way the investigation can go.
Correct. And actually, you made me laugh because in my current capacity, I remember doing an interview with an individual, and she was like, before we even got started, she's like, "Ooh, I was nervous. I had to crush 2 beers before I walked in here." She's like, "I was gonna do a bump of coke, but I thought that'd be too much." I was like,
Oh, that is crazy that you're telling a cop that.
"Wild,"
Wild.
but thank you.
I
So,
appreciate you being honest, though.
hadn't even gotten started yet, and you're already undermining your own stuff. Anywho,
Anywho,
yes. So, I also wanted to say this because I thought this was a good one to highlight security officers. And And actually, I feel I'm remembering how I want to say this. Security officers can be good or bad.
Right.
This was a good
I
one.
agree.
I would say force multiplier. And I was going to say I
Right.
feel bad, but there were security officers
Yes.
who acted like they were Navy SEALs and Delta Force and were
Yes.
had way too much gear and were trying to solve the crime of the century when it was like a domestic disturbance or neighbor dispute or something stupid, and they were way too involved.
Right.
Those security guys annoyed the shit out of me.
100%.
Then you had ones like this one who was extremely helpful, provided all the information I needed, was very descriptive, which is why we were able to arrest the individual, which I'll get to. I'm kind of chopping it up a little bit, but this is where security officers can get a bad rap. But I
Yes.
will say, I don't know if he wants me to say his name. One of my favorite veteran deputies, shall we say, very veteran, was like he would tell security guys, just do your job. Don't do
Yes.
mine. Don't do anybody else's. Just your job. And he goes, you'll be a fucking all-star and I'll
Yeah.
appreciate you. That's
Yeah.
all. Very positive, not demeaning in any way. He
Yeah.
goes, just do your job. He goes, that's very helpful. And
It is.
so this is an area where I was like, absolutely.
Being an excellent witness, which is what security officers are supposed to do,
Yeah.
is an amazing help.
And a good one has all those where, hey, who are you looking for? That, yep, right over there. Yep.
Right
You know
there.
what I mean? They're
Right.
tuned in. They're not trying to
No.
be Dick Tracy or Delta Force, like wearing all
Nope.
black.
They're
Mo,
just paying attention.
I had one hiding in the shadows wearing all black, like would creep
Stop
out
it,
and gave me the flashlight thing.
bro.
My bro,
I I
get out of
think I
here.
know which one
Get
you're
out here.
talking about.
I know, you know it is. I don't want to
And
say
it
where.
was so annoying. I'd be like,
Oh,
"Would you stop?"
bro, stop hiding in there. Get out. I almost shot you, bro. Get out
I
here.
literally,
Doing
I
the
know exactly who you're talking about.
yes,
And
it
I
drove
get
me
it. A
nuts.
lot of them want to be in law
I get
enforcement
it.
and either
So
are
I don't
too
want to be
young
mean. Yeah.
or they have some other thing that's preventing them from being in that role. But like you said, do your job and be a rock star. And I
Rockstar, bro.
promise you
Yeah.
that will you will get way more respect from law enforcement officers than you
Yes.
do when you're doing all that nonsense.
But I also want to say for first responders who would shit on security officers off the rip, just on face value,
Right.
you are doing yourself a disservice because they
You
can be
are.
a valuable asset.
Yes.
Like I said, always be nice until it's time to not be nice.
100%.
Tactical Johnny, I'm not nice.
No.
Everybody else, you get it. You get the nice. You get nice Deputy Martin.
100%.
Until you give me a reason not to. Also, have you ever had a domestic where the suspect threatened to kill themselves?
I can't say that I've ever had one like that, because that
Very
definitely has
random.
a different well,
Yeah.
I say that, but being a negotiator, I have had domestic violence calls that have escalated to barricaded subject
Fair enough.
the,
Yep.
with the victim, and
Yep.
then release the victim, but continue to hold themselves hostage, saying they were gonna kill themselves. So,
Yep.
I've never had one
Fair.
where I don't recall one, let me put it that way, where I was the responding deputy and that's where it folded out to, but I do recall ones where I came on scene as a negotiator and it was born out of a domestic violence situation.
Got it. I could tell you this guy specifically. I personally arrested him 3 times
Oh,
for various things. Yeah.
how did you
I
know
was
it
like,
was him?
oh,
Because I've arrested him 3 times before, Your Honor.
you know what? That does hold up in court, by the way.
It
How
does
did you
hold up in
identify this
court.
person? I've arrested him multiple times. Here's the case
Yes,
numbers.
I know his name.
I know his name. I know his mama's name, his daddy, his baby, 2 of his
Yes.
baby. I know all the names. I know where he's at. He
There
keeps
was
doing the same thing, and you
same
keep letting
things,
out. Oh,
and I keep
you know what? We
arresting
should
him.
do a court etiquette one day, and I could tell you some of my horror stories. Things not to do because your boy had an attitude back in the day,
What
especially if I
not
felt the
to
judge
do.
was being rude. I was like, and everybody knew in the courtroom because all of a sudden I'd slump on the stand to the side like this, and I'd look up, and I'd be like, and I would let them know how I felt. Not a good idea. Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's what not to do.
Do that. Terrible idea.
We're gonna do another episode about what not to do. Things you
Ah.
learned when you were a rookie not to do as a veteran.
You know what? We got to find that one where me and you with the dad and the two boys.
We need to find that one because that was a
I don't know why I
great.
don't have that one. Well, because
I
one
do.
of the dad went to jail, one of the boys went to juvie, and then one of the other boys went. I remember we had to Baker Act him.
Got Baker acted. Bro, it was a domestic violence case.
Yes, and we had a double taser deployment.
We absolutely did.
You know
That
what?
was a
The two
wild
that were
call.
fighting went to jail, but then the other brother who didn't fight was
Didn't
the one
fight.
that got. Yeah,
Yeah, he got Baker acted.
yeah,
And
interesting.
we had mom and sister, I think, there too,
Just sitting there on the couch while the whole thing was going down.
while everything else was unfolding.
Which I thought about after we. Sorry, we're getting off topic, but I thought about after we were so locked in, we weren't even paying attention to those two.
We
At
were
least I
not.
wasn't.
I was not either. I can't take
That's
credit for it. Remember, that
I'll
was the day I went off the rails. You had to talk me down.
well, you were ready to throw hands. I was like, "Whoa,
Exactly. That's what I'm
taser's
saying.
up!" And I was like,
I
"You
was
the
like,
one on the left, I'll take the one on the right."
got it.
Yeah.
We
Ah, yes. All
got to
right.
find that
Sorry,
one. That was a good call.
we do. Oh, so the security officer. Oh, sorry. So we're fast forwarding a little bit. So a couple hours, like 1 hour later, so I left. The security officer called me. See, this is where it's nice, and goes, "Hey, he's back." So I drove back and I took him into custody for domestic battery charges. But because he had been convicted of domestic battery twice before, I was
Because
like,
you
"Oh,
would
I
arrest.
didn't." Because this was the third time it was felony battery based on the
Yes,
prior
it
conviction.
was. Yes, it was.
Boom.
So, sidebar,
Uh,
before you
yeah.
leave that, I just want to touch on that is where I always, when I was training, would tell people know your stuff. You don't have to know the entire statute book. You just have to know the ones that are applicable to what it is that you do. And if you are a
Yeah.
road cop, you should know what the domestic violence charges are, what their
Mm.
enhancements are, what are things that you can do when you have dealt with these individuals because and it's not a matter of trying to jam these people up, but it is a matter of, again, trying to prevent future violence. And if
Yeah.
you have somebody who's been convicted 2 other times, you have to know the statutes so that you can, on that next arrest, that you can go ahead and charge him with that felony or her with that
Yeah.
felony. Knowing that information or knowing that if the person is out currently, of because they have been already arrested for a domestic violence charge, and even though they have not been convicted yet, if they're out, there is a statute that applies to them violating the no contact order that the judge gave them, not an injunction that you can charge them with. So
Yep.
know your stuff, I always say, and the only way you're going to know your stuff is know your case laws, know the Florida state statutes, know your legal bulletins, because your legal department's going to put stuff out and let you know those kind of things. At
Yeah.
least have a good working knowledge of things so that you can do like you did in that case. Oh, two, this is a felony.
I will say, because I had great sergeants, Sharo, but also Sergeant Rodriguez. I'm sure there's more in there, but these are the ones that popped to mind because they would challenge us with knowledge. And Sergeant Rodriguez is actually responsible for telling us, you need to know your statutes in and out because this is your, he was the first one is like, this is your profession now. It'll make you
Mhm.
more confident. You will charge more accurately. And basically you will have the confidence in the demeanor to be the one like you establish the leadership basically.
Right.
And so every night when we were on duty, he would either have a meeting or call us out and be like, he would lay out different, he would read actual case reports, be like, what should he be charged with? And we would all up, and he goes, all right, so then why did you only charge this?
Oh,
Yeah. But it never felt like a shitty way.
right.
It was just like, this is learning.
You remember that though. You'll remember
Oh,
that.
yes. Well, just like I remember Sharo when he taught us about the call goes out, 5-minute lapse. Where do you set the perimeter? And then he would go and he would have us rotate. We would drive for 5 minutes. He goes, 5 minutes, stop, and then we will come find you. And so he goes, go wherever. And we were all amazed at how far everybody.
How
5 minutes is a very long time. He goes, so stop just calling for a perimeter when you have no clue. He goes, especially if
right.
they're in a vehicle, they could be on the highway and gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
He also taught us about sodium lighting back when there was
Yeah.
sodium lighting and how it changed the color
Yes.
of vehicles. So it was like,
Yeah.
oh, it looked like a green vehicle. And you find out it was like yellow.
Yeah.
The lighting, stuff like that.
It
Anyway,
looks totally different. Love it.
so in this one I did do, so remember the suspect said, I want to kill myself and ran. So after I took him into custody, I tried to interview him about his suicidal statements. He didn't have nothing to say about the domestic, but I said, "Hey, I got to talk to you. You said you want to kill yourself. I need to take you to get help for that." He goes, "Man, I was drunk. I didn't mean any of that stuff. I'm not going to kill myself, and I have no intention of harming myself or anyone else. Just take me to jail."
Okay.
So that's why there's no Baker
Baker
Act
Act
on this.
along with it.
Yeah. So this is where I interviewed the security officer. The security officer said that he was responding to the location to back up his partner. When he arrived, he observed an altercation in the parking lot, getting loud. The male suspect, who he knew by name, was wearing. This is where he described what he was wearing. He was wearing a red baseball hat, all the white T-shirt, black pants, all this stuff with a black vest. Had a full beard, like very descriptive.
Love it.
The male walked up to him and said, "My mom just died. I'm going to kill myself," and then took off. That was it. Fled. He said where he fled. So very weird, right?
Yeah.
But the level of description,
Yeah.
right?
Super important.
So this what I'm gonna read the victim one, then we're gonna back. So the victim did not want to provide a statement. So this is where it says, and we'll talk about this. The victim made the following spontaneous statements. "All he did was punch me in the mouth because we are drunk and we're arguing. Fuck the police and fuck whoever called him in the first place. Then tried to slam the door in my face before saying, we've only been living together for a month. Get out my house." And I wasn't even, yeah. And that was it.
Okay. Honestly, though, like, that's a lot. She gave you a lot in that statement.
All he
He
did was
punched me in the
punch me in the
mouth.
mouth. We were
We've been
drunk.
living together for a month. We
Yeah.
both have been drinking.
Well, she tried to
Uh,
minimize. We've only been living together for a month, meaning like y'all don't even need to be here. I was like,
right.
"Oh,
But
that's all I
for
need."
us, for the
Yeah.
law, that's all we need. And,
Mhm.
like you said, she said they both have been drinking, and he punched me. All he did was punch me in the mouth, and noted she doesn't like the cops, but that's not relevant to the charging.
No. Bing bong. So now we're going back to victim non-cooperation. So we've already talked about why victims refuse to cooperate. I don't think this one applies to the same as the last one.
Nope. That's why I think domestic violence is so
Mhm.
unique, because what one victim does is different than the next victim. It'll be different than the next victim, and their reasoning behind it will be very. I think for her, this was probably normal life,
Just every day. Didn't even
and it
phase
was
her.
a big deal.
She
No, it
went
didn't.
back inside.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah.
Bleeding out of her face.
She's like, I'm good.
So this was a topic, and Mo, we might have to do a whole episode on this, but maybe it might get boring. Alcohol and domestic violence.
Oh yeah,
How common? It's like peanut butter and jelly.
they are also a couple, alcohol and domestic violence.
Yes.
They usually show up to the party together.
Yes.
Um, and usually alcohol shows up first, and then domestic
Mhm.
violence will come up and join him.
Mhm.
But they love each other. They love each other so much.
I will say, because I've worked for multiple agencies, uh, the alcohol of choice is regional. In Florida, hopefully you remember, Four Loco. Can't tell you how many
It's
domestic
back.
I'd rather. It's back again. Oh my
It's
god.
literally, what's so funny? In
Mhm.
the last 3 days, I saw a truck driving by me that said Four Locos has been remixed, and I
Oh
was like, "I
no,
thought that got outlawed."
no.
And then I saw a guy walking down the street carrying a Four Locos can with him, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So, it's back.
My other favorite, depending on what area of Hillsborough County you're in, was something I learned: clamato, which is beer and clam juice. Like it's
Is
almost
it
like
clam juice?
a
Isn't it tomato juice too?
clamato. Well, probably it's supposed to be like a what do they call the
Like
what is that
a
drink? Bloody Mary,
Bloody Mary.
but
It
it's
does have
beer.
tomato juice.
But it's beer.
That's disgusting sounding, for the record.
If I was walking up to in a house, an apartment, a trailer, whatever, you would see that littered in the ground. You're like, send me another unit. I already know. I already know.
I already know. That
Now I will
sounds
say
disgusting.
up north, it was Allen's coffee brandy, which was like $4 for a plastic liter.
Allen's coffee brandy. That
It's
sounds
coffee
fancy.
flavored. You ever heard of Taco vodka? Like at the bottom of shelf of the like, you can get a gallon for like $8. It's
No.
like that. It's like it's
Ugh.
coffee flavored brandy.
So
Which,
people
if you
drink it
ever
in the
seen,
morning.
all day long, baby,
I
all
love
day and
it.
all night. So anytime you're mixing alcohol with caffeine,
With
basically,
caffeine is dumb.
wild.
That's why
Like
Four
Red
Locos,
Bull,
I felt like, got outlawed for a while because they were doing
yeah,
something crazy like that.
Red Bull and vodka.
That's another insane drink. I will
There you
say I
go.
have drank some before. I did not like them, though.
Hmm. Yeah,
So what was this brandy thing called again?
I think it's called Allen's Coffee Brandy.
Allen's
Now,
Coffee
this is
Brandy.
not a derogatory message about any of these products.
No,
This is just our recollection. We
we
got to
just
do
know
the
people get turned up
disclaimer.
on things like this.
They do. It doesn't mean every time someone drinks a Four Loco, they're going to go home and beat up their partner.
No, it does not. I will say, and I can go on record with saying that doesn't happen because before Four Locos was outlawed before, we were at a bachelorette party, some friends of mine who were also law enforcement officers, and we indulged in Four Locos. We slept well that night and nobody got beat up.
Yeah, how'd your head feel in the morning, though?
Bro,
Ooh.
it was
Mm.
rough.
Yeah.
I was like, what now? When they got outlawed, we were like, we know why.
When you think you like, hey, I think we're going too hard is when you take the bag of wine out of the box and you cut the bag to drink it like a old school Viking. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
You've done that before?
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Nobody
Can't
got beat
confirm or
up.
deny. Nobody
Nobody
got
got beat
beat
up.
up again. So
My head
when we
did.
say
My brain did. Maybe
that's
allegedly.
that's why when we say alcohol and domestic violence are a couple, but they don't always have to be together.
No.
They don't there are people, please, don't come for us. There are people who drink, they're responsible, nobody gets
Yes.
beat up. Some people are perfectly nice when they drink and
Mhm.
all is well. But when you look at the percentage of domestic violence cases,
Mhm.
and you then put in how many cases also involve alcohol, there is a majority that would include alcohol also.
Yes. So these were some questions or the topics that I was like, that I thought this case highlighted. Can officers make arrest even if the victim is uncooperative? The answer.
Absolutely.
What evidence is enough evidence? Because I arrested this dude based off what we just talked over. But go ahead.
I feel like when you have enough evidence to determine in your mind that that
Mhm.
individual is a suspect in this crime, that's
Mhm.
enough. And that can be uh, a picture with a witness statement. It can be, and when I say picture, it can be me looking at her and seeing her
Mhm.
mouth bleeding and a witness statement coming from a guard who observed the altercation and then him run off. That's enough. We are not, that's the thing too. It is not our job. We are not there to prove they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That is
Yep.
not, when we write
Nope.
a probable cause, it is not written with the idea that the person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It is written in the respect that the crime that has occurred, one, there was a crime that has occurred, and the individual that I have arrested, it's more likely than not that that individual committed the crime. And I have enough evidence that makes me know in my mind that that individual is the suspect in the crime that has been committed. Sometimes I get
Well,
it right. Sometimes
yep.
you get it wrong.
So it's
Not
a
wrong in the respect of it's wrong. It's wrong in the respect that the evidence doesn't all add up because there's other evidence that comes to light.
this is a drastic example, but the point is kind of driven home. A murder, the victim can't
Yes,
testify. So
correct.
again, when it comes to investigative casework, it's still the same. You take the
100%.
evidence that you see, witness statements, anything like that to make that determination. The same thing is involved when a victim either
Correct.
refuses to cooperate or I didn't have it on this one, but can't cooperate because I've had mute, like mentally disabled victims. Those are harsh. I've been tabling those, Mo.
Correct.
They
Those
are
are very
victimized
hard.
and abused a lot as well, and they
Yeah,
don't know how to even articulate what's happened to them.
right. Doesn't mean that you have to let the person off the hook.
No.
Um,
So
and I think
those
it's
are
a
drastic
great
examples, but same, yeah.
I think it's a great example when you say though, we arrest people for murders all the time without having the victim cooperate
Mhm.
because they
Yeah.
can't. Um, I just wanted to look this up because I wanted to make sure I was quoting it right. The probable cause is the legal standard in Florida that requires police to have a reasonable belief based on objective facts that a
Mhm.
crime has been committed or that the evidence of a crime is present. It requires for law enforcement to conduct a search, seize property, or this is what is required for law enforcement to be able to do a search, to seize property, or to make a warrantless arrest.
Mhm.
So it's not like people think we're like, oh, well, there was enough to say, no, it's just a reasonable belief that based on these facts that are objective, that this person committed that crime that has been heard. So,
I think that ties into the next thing I wanted to ask because I've been remiss in my duties. When suspects flee,
correct.
what goes through your mind?
Couple different things. It's how quickly they like if I'm standing there and the suspect flees in front of me, my mindset's very different than if
Mhm.
I get there and they're like, "Oh, they already ran." Um, if they're standing right in front of me, the first thing that goes to my mind is I'm gonna try to chase. That's
Mhm.
almost like a natural instinct when you have the suspect right there.
Mhm.
If I get to the scene and the suspect's not there, the first thing I'm gathering how long ago, because like we were saying, how far away can this person have gotten? Are they on foot? Are we talking about they're in a vehicle? And then if the determination is made they may not be that far away, then my next steps are going to be calling for other resources to be able to set up perimeters, utilize other options to be able to locate the individual.
Do you automatically assume guilt?
Not automatic guilt, but there is that definitely does weigh into the factors when you're
Yeah.
looking at all of the other objective factors.
Yeah.
Because can innocent people run away from law enforcement?
Yes.
They are legally allowed to.
Mhm.
So that could not be a standalone factor.
Well,
That
I had to do some internal thinking, and I was like, it's almost like predator drive. When you see somebody run, you wanna chase, right?
Mhm.
But to your point, that doesn't mean they're the one or that they're guilty. They might also just be like, "Yo, I don't want them to think I was involved," or they're like, "I don't wanna be involved anyway."
At
They're
all.
not even a suspect, they just running because 'cause they're like, "I
Yeah.
don't wanna get involved in none of this."
That's where we talk about the totality of circumstances because
Yeah.
as I'm getting the call and I'm getting information fed to me as I'm getting there, that's going to affect whether or not I chase that person. Once I get there, if I haven't talked to anybody and all I have is what the call goes on, if the call gave me nothing, I have let people run away from me before because I
I had
understand
no
they can
idea.
do that because I didn't know that was my suspect.
Yeah.
Um, if I get to the call and then subsequently talk to someone, and now I know this person that just took off, I have the call information plus what that person gave me, that might change whether or not I chase or not. But yeah, we a chase them running away alone is not enough.
This one is pretty standard across the board from the agencies I've worked with and worked for,
Mhm.
but now add the mental health aspect, the suicidal
Yeah,
threats.
that's the caveat.
So, for agencies that have aviation resources, canine deployments, um, you also because I put this in there balancing, calls for service or criminal investigations with welfare concerns because
Yeah,
typically if the child's under 12, I think, you're on that for the night, like, you're not gonna ever
yeah,
stop. Right? Well,
yeah,
that ties up a massive amount. You're tying up canine, aviation, sometimes multiple deputies, specialty teams. Like the search doesn't end, right? But in the meantime, like what if you've got burglaries, domestics, robberies, stabbing, shootings? There's only
right.
so many bodies. How do you balance? And this is why I would love to get some supervisors to think through this and like how would you
Yeah,
balance that? I know a lot of cops do hypotheticals all the time. It's hard to lock someone in on a solid answer because it's like, well,
correct.
I have to be there. Like, I have to see what's going on. Like, what is the totality? What exactly is going on? I
And I
understand that,
agree.
but these are all things that you're tying in.
And I think those are important to say because for those who have not, again, done this job, and it's not a
Yeah.
knock to be like, you don't understand. We're so much smarter. It's not, but it's the reality of
Mhm.
every single domestic violence call I went to was different because
Yeah.
even though they were quote unquote standard domestics, there was some little nuance, there was some little thing that might change the way I'm going to interact or how I'm going to react in those situations. And I can make a general statement to say, generally speaking, this is how it should be done,
Yeah.
or this is
Mhm.
what I would do. But
Yeah.
it is fair to say I'd have to see the total. And I would tell people, especially, you know, being in law enforcement, you go to a party or you go somewhere where people who are non law enforcement. So I got a question for you. I want to run this by you, and they run it by you with the skew of their viewpoint. And I would always respond and say, generally speaking, this is how it would be handled. But in all honesty, like I would have to have been there, see what
Yeah.
was going on, flesh out the this, or this, because there are factors that are going to affect the next move that I make.
Yes. And we'll flush through this one kind of quick because we kind of touched on it. But, law enforcement, they have to take every suicidal threat seriously. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how flippant somebody says it, for liability issues, public safety. Um, you know what? We haven't had anybody with aviation come on, but I could tell you, having worked for an agency that had aviation assets and one that did not, I didn't realize how heavily I relied upon them for things and how amazing they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
Having that, it's almost like a security blanket, knowing that, hey, someone's up there looking, and the amount of technology that goes in. I could actually
Hmm.
speak to a lot of it from my prior line of work. The camera stuff, like they could be thousands of feet away and they're zoomed in, like I could see the hat you're wearing and the words on it. Like and
Right.
you don't even know they're out. Like
Isn't
it's
that
really, I don't want to give too much
insane?
stuff away, but it's wild.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're
It's
balancing so many
incredible.
different things. Yeah.
And
Specialty
nowadays, the
units are
technology is
amazing.
even better because
Yeah.
I mean, drones and
Yes.
it's wildly
Well, it's
different.
also a consideration for aviation now. And when I say aviation, I mean helicopters.
Yeah.
Most agencies don't roll out the old fixed wing, to
They have
go
them
do the,
though. They have them.
yeah. But it's honestly, so drones are amazing and they do a lot, but I don't know. There's something about the helicopter, but also
There
now they're
is.
also having to worry about drones and power lines and all. There's so much stuff that goes into it,
There's
especially in
so
urban.
much stuff. Yeah.
We'll table that. We got to figure that one out.
Yeah, we
'Cause
need we
actually
need to
we might
find
know,
somebody from aviation.
we got to know somebody. We both do.
Gotta.
All right. So I thought this was good. Again, it wasn't very detailed because they didn't want to cooperate, but just because I
Right.
arrested him for domestic and I've arrested him many times before, you still have to, and I still had to, even the, take that mental health side. Hey, we need to talk. Hey, put all that aside. Do you need help?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like you still had to take that
Yeah.
time to flush it. Now, again, he was an asshole and be like, I'm not doing, fuck that. I'm drunk. I don't want to do, I'm not, whatever, but you still have to add that piece.
You have a responsibility because even if we arrest somebody, I don't know if people know this, but if you make an arrest and the person then meets Baker Act criteria, you have to complete that also and Baker Act them at the jail.
Yeah. Which also happens. And I thought this also demonstrated how a lot of officers have to work in those gray areas, right?
Yeah.
Here you are, repeat offender, someone you've dealt with many times, but you still uncooperative victim. Again, the human being in me is like, man, fuck you then. I don't want to do nothing, but you can't, as a cop, you got to be
Right.
professional. You can't do that.
Yeah. And we can't
I don't
assume
know
we
what my
know
state of
where.
mind was here, but I'm sure I was like, this motherfucker. I'm sure.
Well, and it sucks because we also don't want at the same time assume her reluctance is coming from one place when it might be coming from somewhere different. So that's why I always looked at
Yep.
like you said, we were professionals, and a professional is going to do their job the same no matter what the circumstances are around it.
So we've already talked about it on a different episode, but I had one where I responded. A neighbor, it was a domestic neighbor called. I knocked on the door. All the signs, glass was broken, all this stuff like that. But the woman who was the victim was like, fuck you, get away from me. I'm recording you, basically just hurling insults at me. And I ended up forcing entry. And when I did, boyfriend jumps out the back window and runs away. And she's like, oh my God, he made me say all that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like she didn't, she was trying to appease him.
correct. Yeah, so you
So
don't know where it comes from. So do your job the same.
correct. Um, we've already kind of touched on it, but domestic violence is often hidden until it explodes. We touched on that. Victims don't always act the way people expect. I think this is kind of a transverse victim as opposed to the other one who was
Right,
battered, abused, beaten, and just was like, I'm just trying to get out. This
right.
one was a little more belligerent, but again, to your point, don't know where all the came. This one involved alcohol, which frequently fuels bad decisions.
Mhm.
mental health crises can emerge during criminal investigations. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes they merge with your victims too.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Independent witnesses are invaluable. In this case, it was a security officer.
Mhm.
Um, Probable cause does not always require a victim's cooperation. I added this one: repeat offenders can create unique challenges because you, to your point, can't take it personal. And this is the other thing: just because they've been the perpetrators previously doesn't mean they can't then become a victim. You know
100%.
what? I would love Mo. I would have to do some research, but because I've made this statement on Street Tales in 56, and the worst victims, like burglary victims, are people who have been convicted of burglary themselves. When they get burglarized, they are the worst victims. I would love to do a little
Yes.
series on that because those are the worst. They're telling you how to work the case. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Yep. I thought this one highlighted officers often protect people who don't want protection.
Yes.
We do that a lot. People don't think about that.
And that's our
Also
job.
the work. Yeah. Yeah. Even if they don't want you there and they hate you, still going to protect you.
Yep. That's
Mm.
frustrating.
And the work doesn't end when the report is written.
No, the work has just begun when the report has
Yeah.
been written. In truth, it that's a good bit of it beginning because I always say, if you can write a great report, you won't see a
Mhm.
courtroom for the most part. Um,
Nope.
but
Can attest.
if you, I mean, like once your report has been written, especially if you haven't been able to make an arrest or whatever, a lot of times if you had a good supervisor that would sometimes let us hang on to these cases, you have there's a lot more investigative steps that can be done after that. There's a
Mhm.
lot of follow up that can be done, even with supplemental cases and things like that. So, yeah, when the report's done, that's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yep. So, and I thought this case didn't highlight just the arrest itself because I think that's something I've focused on previously with our conversations. Uh, but it was about a victim who didn't want help again, but a different angle. A suspect potentially. I mean, if it's true, because we never got into it. If it's true, his mom just died, so he's spiraling with anger. He's self medicating with alcohol.
Right,
Um, and then I thought it also highlighted because it wasn't just me on the case. I haven't read all the other deputies that were involved, their names anyway. But
right.
you have to make difficult decisions with limited resources, right?
Yeah,
Because again, you're tying up resources. So for the people listening, think about it's hard to it's easy to latch on to certain aspects of the case, but domestic violence victims, battered, bleeding, fuck the police, get out of here. Male repeat offender who I personally have dealt with multiple times makes a suicidal threat, leaves. So you have a felony offender who makes a suicidal threat. Now I'm going to tie up aviation, canine, additional, deputies, perimeter, search hours, other calls. You could see how
yeah,
some people might think that why even bother? Fuck that guy.
right.
But
Yeah.
we can't do that.
No,
Um,
we cannot.
yes, but these are the moments that the public rarely sees. This kind of ties into what you and I were talking about the other day when we're like, we're going to
Mhm.
do another mini series.
Yes,
Um, but let me ask you this. I believe these are the moments that kind of define the job in a nutshell. Like these types of cases are the bulk.
absolutely.
Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
think
This was my
no,
opinion.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that people have attributed because we've had for a number of years, we had shows like Cops and the other one where they would, live PD or whatever. We've had these kind of shows like that that people think they understand law enforcement in a nutshell.
Mhm.
Those are not realistic. There's a lot of editing and cutting and things like that that occur on those shows. This
Yeah.
is the epitome of what law enforcement really looks like. It's the ones they're not the cut and clean calls that we go to where you have the victim that's wanting to write the written
Mm-mm.
statement and wants help, and you're there giving her the pamphlets and helping her through the phone calls or helping him through the phone calls. This is the more often than not what domestic violence calls looks like, where we are there and we have a legitimate victim that doesn't want help or doesn't is afraid for help or doesn't want the person arrested for whatever their rationale and reasoning for not having them arrested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think these are great because they do highlight what the reality of law enforcement really looks like, not the
Yeah.
glamorized Hollywood version of law enforcement.
And I would say, to me, these highlighted kind of, in general, the norm for a victim that I would deal with. Again, not
Mhm.
everyone. And we used to use the term, they're not great victims because they're rude, they're mean, they're not helpful, even though they have been victimized. Clearly, right? You can see the evidence on them
Right.
and you want to help them. It's like they make it so hard.
Yeah.
And that's the day in and day out. Again, these two calls again, um, were just a few months apart from each other, and I was still 1 year on,
Right.
maybe a few months out of FTO,
Yeah.
and that's what just day in and day out, day in and day out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that we highlighted these.
I thought, see, I put a little. We took a few weeks off. Not that I didn't do the research before, but I was, when you
No,
take some time off, you kind of think through like how you want to present these things and how you want to
exactly.
articulate them, and I do take feedback from people who leave comments, the ones that are constructive anyway, the ones that are like, fuck cops. Okay, I mean, I
Yeah.
get it.
Freedom of speech.
Do your thing. Um, but Mo, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, sir. Always a good one.
Yeah, always, always fun. Don't go anywhere, Mo.